Hey, Michelle. Hi, Jackie. Good, good. So the chat window down the side doesn't always keep pace. Jeff Cremines, there's a throwback from my past. How you doing? Um, so if you ask a question in the chat, um, I will try to scroll to those and get to those as soon as we get a little break. You're very welcome, Ellen. I love sharing information, so I really like doing these. So let's go ahead and get started. And so welcome everybody. My name is Julie North. In case you are not familiar with me, I'm a medium and medical intuitive based out of Ohio. I do phone sessions and readings all over the world. I teach, give lectures, do workshops, and I've been doing some free classes while we're all in quarantine through the Zoom app. And if you want to learn more about what I do or schedule a session or get information on how to get in on those free classes, all of that information is on my website at www.julienorth.com, JULIENORTH.com. I also have been posting all of these free classes, including this one, once we get it finished and edited, will go up on the YouTube channel where all the other free classes are going. So if you have missed any of the classes that we've done so far, we've done a Pick My Brain where people randomly ask questions of the other side and I translate the answer. Those are big picture questions, so not personal things. The last one we did was pretty interesting and there's some really cool information in there. So you can watch the whole thing on the YouTube channel. I also did an empath Tools for Now class number 1 and number 2. If you are a sensitive person to energy or believe that you're an empath or you need some tools for working with picking up energies, would strongly recommend you go check those videos out. The first one is a great tool for filtering your field, and the second one is really about nutrition and crystals and Bach flower remedies, and so hopefully you guys find those helpful. The reason for doing tonight's class is resonance. And I hear a lot of people say, this isn't resonant with me, or resonance is something that's coming up a lot in people's conversations. It comes up a lot in readings. And I want to talk to you for a minute about why. So in a little bit, we're going to get to a tool that I want to show you that's super easy to use so you can start telling the difference between what's resonant for you and what you want. They are not the same thing. And that's the confusion, is that people are thinking that what they want is what's resonant. So currently in the human experience, and I don't want to spend the whole class talking about this, but the human energetic chakra system is changing. And it's been going on for a number of years. It'll go on for a number of years still. But instead of a primary 7 chakra system with a root-based kundalini, and that system is the one that we've been using as human beings for our expansion and evolution for thousands of years, that 7 chakra system is, and that root-based kundalini is a rule-based or plan-based sort of system. And the new system is an 8 chakra system. And I know that there's people out there talking about the 8th chakra being up here above your head. There is a new chakra there, but when we're talking about chakras, we're talking about the ones that are in the body. So primary chakras, there's thousands of them in your body, but primary chakras, primary intersections. The new chakra, let me tilt this just a little bit so you can see better, is right here. So heart chakra, high heart chakra, throat chakra. So this new chakra right here is kind of fuchsia in color, and the kundalini in that particular 8 chakra system lives around that chakra instead of in the root with the old 7 chakra system. So the 7 chakra system is a rule-based, plan-based system. The 8 chakra system is a resonance-based system. And the Cliff Notes version of why the system is changing is because human beings need a greater, they need to experience higher vibratory energies in their human system as part of their evolution. So basically, everybody's done enough school. There's enough people who've done enough school to warrant this college being built. And a resonance-based system is not about what you want. So I looked up what the dictionary defines as resonance. And Merriam-Webster dictionary defines it as a vibration that is deep and clear. That has nothing to do with want. So when we're talking about resonance, the new system is you activate the Kundalini and feed the system through doing what is resonant. And in order to do what's resonant, you need to understand what that is, right? So lots of people are coming out of this rule-based, plan-based system, and they're trying to break the concepts of should. So a rule-based or plan-based system is going to, and all of you, have experienced it, are still experiencing it. The world was built on a system that tells you what to do. And it served for a really long time. Following those rules, following those plans meant survival. And it's not that we don't want to survive now, but when you activate the energy in the system, if you're a resonance-based system, and you're trying to instead do things that have you following the rules, you're going to be in conflict. So all of you out there who have digestive issues, second chakra support issues, third chakra worth and value issues, no matter what you're doing, you can't seem to feel loved, or you can't seem to figure out what your identity is. Let me give you a quick explanation of this system. So in the 7 chakra system, you have a root chakra, you have a second chakra, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh, right? And so if you gave them all like a name, the root chakra would be like who I am. And the second chakra is I'm supported. Third chakra is I'm worthy and valuable. Heart is I am love or loved. Throat, I communicate clearly. Third eye, I perceive clearly. And crown, I'm divine or divinely connected. So when you have a root-based Kundalini system that is rule or plan oriented, to activate that Kundalini, think of this system like an old mercury thermometer, right? The mercury's at the bottom, you activate that mercury, it rises on the system. We're not talking about the chakras that are in the energetic body or the secondary or minor chakras throughout your physical system, the primary system. So you have a hara line that comes right down through the middle of your body. It's the conduit with which you are connected to all things. So energy comes and goes on that hara line, and your primary chakras sit right on that. So in the rule-based or plan-based system, if you wanted to activate your Kundalini, which is basically necessary for everyday functionality, you had to activate this rule-based or plan-based concept, and that energy would activate and feed the system. So for example, if I follow the rules, that's who I am, then I'm supported, then I'm worthy and valuable, then I'm loved, then I can communicate clearly, perceive clearly, and divine or divinely connected. That was the way that the system worked. In the 8 chakra system, you have an 8th chakra right here over it's at your thymus. It's not in front of you, it's in your body. And it's a resonance-based system. So your Kundalini lives here. When you activate a resonance-based system, or when you are doing what's resonant for you, that's what's going to activate that. That energy is sitting in the middle of your system. So it's going to travel down the hara line from there to activate your other chakras and up. So from the resonance-based 8th chakra up, if I do what's resonant for me, then I communicate clearly, I perceive clearly, and I'm divine or divinely connected. So it's a little bit of a shortcut to those things, which is why so many people are finding it easier to speak clearly, perceive clearly, and get in touch with their sense of divinity, whatever that might be. That pathway is the same direction as the 7 chakra pathway. The challenge comes in when you look at the how it feeds the system this way. So in an 8 chakra system with resonance here, and I want to do what's resonant for me, if I do that, what's resonant for me, that's self-love, That's self-worth. And then you realize the other thing wasn't really self-worth. You've been calling it that all along, but it's not self-worth. It had nothing to do with you doing what was resonant for you. It had to do with you following someone else's rules or plan. So if I do what's resonant for me, that's self-love, that's self-worth, that's self-supportive, and that's who I am. So it's the same sentences in kind of a different order with a different reason. And that reason is crucial. So, there's a tremendous volume of people on the planet who were born with an 8-chakra system. If you've been born after the fall of 93, it's almost guaranteed that you have an 8-chakra system. There's a lot of us that came before that, but the further back you get in time, the less people there are, having that system. But when you're an 8-chakra system born into the current world, nothing works for you, right? So you're built to work with what's resonant for you. But all the structures, your government structures, your family structures, your educational structures, your community structures, your relationship structures, they don't work. It's all about follow the rule, follow the plan. Go to school, get this degree, get this job, stay in that job long term. In the meantime, get married, have 2.2 kids, and get a house, this plan. And if you didn't follow that plan, your safety wasn't insured, right? And so everyone followed that plan. But when you have a resonance-based system and it wants to do what's resonant for it, the structures that are in the 7-chakra system don't work for that. So if I want to change my mind about what I do for a living, or if I want to go to school for a couple of years and get a degree, and then that's not resonant for me anymore, right? And I want to change that. Our current structure doesn't really allow very well for that. The education takes too long, the education is too expensive. So all of these structures have rules. They don't allow for change easily. So the idea of free will choice in the 7-chakra system is a little bit of a scam, right? Technically, you have free will choice. Sure, you can change your job. Sure, you can change your life. And it's technically true. But the pathway to do that in a rule-based system makes it not efficient to do so. It makes it almost impossible to do so and maintain any kind of quality of life. Not to mention that you're living in a culture that is all about follow the plan, follow the rule. And so there's a tremendous amount of judgment, which comes with, emotional baggage and shaming and ostracization from your group or family. So, the 8-chakra system is really struggling to get its footing in a 7-chakra world. And a lot of the reason that you see so much of the educational structures changing over the last couple of decades is because they don't work for this 8-chakra system. So remember, it's a resonance-based system. And, when you have an 8-chakra system, resonance going this way, and if you're an 8-chakra system born into this 7-chakra world, you will have likely adopted sort of a false system to kind of overlay your functional human operation, which is a 7-chakra system, right? So now you're kind of running Windows and Mac at the same time. Every time you make a decision in your life, you're running your inherent system, resonance, and you're running your 7-chakra adopted system, rule-based, plan-based, right? So you activate those kundalinis, if you will, and where are they going to fight? They're going to fight right in here, right? Where self-support, or I feel supported, I believe I'm supported, I'm self-supportive, and I'm worthy and valuable. Those are the two things that suffer. The organs associated with that part of your body suffer as well, because you basically have, a 200-car pileup of energy going on in this area. And the other piece of that is that when you're operating with that dual system, no matter what you do, you don't get what you're after, because the energy never really gets where it needs to get to. So if I follow the rules, it doesn't matter. I'm a resonant system, right? But I'm going to follow the rules because that's what everybody says I need to do in order to feel loved, right? But if I follow the rules, it's getting jammed up here because it's also running on my resonance. It's not resonant with me. So it's fighting. If I do what's resonant for me, that's not getting me what I want either. That's not helping me self-identify. So, the two systems are at odds, and the should concept is the culprit of thought and language. So one of the things that you can do to help yourself with that is to catch yourself using that concept. In order to work in resonance, you have to undermine and eventually eradicate the concept of should, the should programs in your system. Should, shouldn't, supposed to, I've got to, the right thing, right? And that's why so many of you are feeling like you want to break the rules, right? I don't want to do what I should. I don't care what that is. We're still having a tendency to hold other people to rules that are comfortable for us. But inside of ourselves, we're in this breakout mode. So in order for you to counteract that, you have to really understand the difference between want and resonant. And it's been a challenge for me listening to people use that term wrong, because when you use the term resonance to mean I want, which is what most people are doing. Oh, that sounds resonant with me. Or, no, I don't think that's resonant with me. No matter how you lay that out, 99% of the time when I hear someone using that word, they're not actually checking in with what's resonant at all. They're saying, I don't want that. I don't want to do that, right? Or I do want that. So they'll say, oh, yeah, Bali sounds resonant. You didn't check in, right? And so that's the key. Want is a feeling of emotion. Resonance is a feeling of vibration. And they are different. Technically, everything's a vibration, and so it can get a little muddy. But it's really important for you in this time frame more than ever in your life to try to language what's going on with you truthfully, more clearly. If you want something, say, I want that, or that sounds nice, or I like that, or no, that doesn't sound good to me, or, no, I don't feel like doing that. Don't use resonance unless you are using that term to mean that your body, not your emotion, from a vibratory state, has responded. So resonance in the terms that we're using with a resonance-based system really is about what serves your soul's greatest good, right? And it's important for us to talk about that for just a minute. You might really want this chocolate, right? I want it. But it might be resonant for your system and it might not. And it might be resonant right now and not later. Or it might not be resonant now and it might not be resonant for months, but you can keep checking in. So it's important to know the difference between, I think this chocolate is good for me. I want this chocolate. And is this chocolate resonant, right? They're very different things. So in order to help you all out, I wanted to show you a little tool that has a bunch of applications. I've got a class coming up next Wednesday on Zoom. Again, check the website if you want to get in on that. It's free. And we're going to use this tool as part of a divination process in intuition development. It's an amazing tool, but you can use it in this resonance checking in. And for those of you that are new to this concept of the difference between what's resonant and what I want, it will be exceptionally helpful. Some of you maybe have been working with genuine resonance in your body long enough to not have to use this tool. But I will tell you, the tool is something that the other side taught me when I was little, and I still occasionally use it for various things because it's wicked fast and it gets me out of the way. So when we're asking any questions, of ourself or of the other side, when we're the one asking a question and we have any kind of an attachment or vested interest in the answer, we can get in the way. And that's where this tool comes in most helpful. It will get you out of the way. So it's real simple. Keep in mind that energy does not move well on a tight system. So if you're tense, right, you're going to want to drop your shoulders. You want to roll them around, whatever you need to do, right? Wiggle your arms out, but you want your body, your torso, to be as relaxed as possible. There's obviously some tension in it because you're sitting upright. Otherwise, you'd be laying like a puddle of jello on the floor. So what we're going to use, if I back up here, I'll show you. There are these cyclical systems in the human body. So people talk about chakras, they talk about meridians, hara lines, but there are these cyclical systems that are crucially important to moving energy in your system. And you can use those cyclical systems at will. So one of those cyclical systems is this one, right? This wheel of energy here. And I don't know if the video is showing you the opposite of what this is, so I'm gonna define it left and right. So we're gonna start with the palm of the left hand. And it's important that you understand how this works. Energy is always a two-way circuit. It's always moving but both directions. But most of the time, it's going to have a predominant flow to it. And in most people, not all people, but in most people, that flow is going to be predominantly left to right, right? So in a circle, in a wheel, there is no starting point. So we're just going to pick one, right? We're going to pick the palm of the left hand, right? So you have a minor chakra here. Or a secondary chakra, whatever you want to call that. You have one in both hands. So this is going to be our starting point, left hand. And if you imagine that energy is coming up your left arm and across your hara line, remember the hara line is the conduit to all energy, connection to all things, crosses that hara line, comes down the right arm, out the palm of the right hand, and if your hands are apart or wherever they are, it's going to cycle back over to that other hand. So from my right to my left. If my hands are together, it doesn't have very far to go. But this is a big wheel of energy. This is why this cyclical system of energy is why when we place hands on people, they can feel it. It's why we instantly have a tendency, almost inherent, like our genetics, to put our hands in places when something's going on with us. Right? No one taught you when you were 4 that when your brain is overwhelmed, you put your hands on your head, but you still do it, right? Somebody says something to you that makes you feel like you're a bad human being. Ugh. You put your hands here because the cyclical system is, it's a powerful system. So you can use it for all kinds of things. In this case here, we're going to use it as a channel of energy. So, you want to you can be sitting upright. You can be standing. If you're standing, I would strongly recommend that you bend your knees. So a lot of people stand, oh, you can't even see that. But when they stand, they'll lock their knees, right? Locked, right? Or they'll lock one of them and the other one's bent. You want to make sure they're a little bit bent. You don't have to squat down, right? But you want them a little bit bent. Unlock them because that is another cyclical system in the body that grounds you into your human experience. So oddly enough, it's at the bottom of your physical system, but it plays heavily into how well you incorporate divine energy, whatever you want to call that, universal energy, into your physical system. So, if you're sitting, you should be fine unless you're sitting with your legs out and your knees are locked. So always want to have your knees a little bit bent. And you don't have to sit like this. This is just my habit. So roll your shoulders and relax them, right? And for me, the way they taught it to me was that I would just put my hands palms up. It doesn't really matter what you do. If you can put your arms out here and you're relaxed, right? See that when I did it, a little bit of tension. Got to remember to relax, right? Drop your shoulders. Don't have them all crunched forward. So I just put my hands on my knees rather than holding them in the air because that's the most relaxed status, right? So we want to find out if something is resonant for us or not. And in order to do that, the energy has to be able to move, come in on your hara line and move through your cyclical system, right? To like kind of show itself in your body. But if you're not asking the right question, you'll struggle to get clear answers, right? So remember that the universe is energy. It's always changing. There's nothing that's going to be true forever. Forever and always and never are not words that I get to use because they're not truthful, except to say that change is always happening. And then you get to use that word. So it's really important that when you're checking on something for its resonance, that you say at this time or for now. So let's say I wanted to give this workshop, right? I want to do it. I want people to understand the difference. And then, okay, so I know I want to do that, but I'm not going to say it's resonant for me because I haven't checked yet, right? So the easiest way to do it is to ask, is this resonant for me at this time? And because if you don't say at this time, then time is like forever, forwards and backwards. And there's no way to answer that because nothing's ever going to be true forever, forwards and backwards. So always at this time. So I might have gotten a no, right? I might have gotten a yes. You can feel it in your system. So it's really important to understand what that feeling is like. Your system vibrates to yes, and it vibrates differently to no. And if you're trying to discern the differences in those vibrations and kind of reprogram the system, your familiarity with that system, you want to practice asking questions where the answer is definitively going to be yes, and you know that. So you can get like, oh, yes, I know the answer is going to be yes, and this is what it feels like. Or I know the answer is going to be no, and here's what that feels like, right? So a lot of people will say, well, gosh, what do I know that is true? Right? What could be a definite yes? Oh, my name is Julie. The problem with that question or that statement is that we're not really operating in linear time. And so when you say, my name is Julie, my name is Clint, my name is Paul, my name is Mary, that may not be true throughout all of history. So if I said my name is John and I were expecting to get a no and trying to train myself, that could be really confusing because I might be really tapped into some experience where I was John. And so phrasing the sentences for practicing this feeling is crucial. So I would say instead, I am known as Julie in this particular lifetime, right? And I'm going to feel for that. I'm going to feel for that in my body. So in most people's cases, not everyone, so no, not everyone's not going to be exactly the same. Your body will respond. Sometimes it will vibrate all over a certain way. For other people, it might vibrate in a certain part of their body. For a lot of people, it's going to hit you like a spot in the spine. And it tends to fall, it's not everyone, but it tends to fall somewhere behind this high heart chakra here, where my finger is pointing, to down here just beneath the second chakra. So somewhere on that line in the body, but on that spine, you might feel this tingly, right? So in my system, and in most of the systems of the people that I've worked with who utilize this, yes has an expansive feeling, like yes, and no has a compressing kind of feeling or a flat dead kind of feeling to it. So just take a minute and get yourselves get your shoulders relaxed, right? And you don't have to sit like this, right? That's not good. Just relax and say the statement, in this life, I am known as, and state your name and feel for that. So sometimes you'll feel it in a spot and then it will move. It might expand this way, or it might run on your hara line. So mine has a tendency to run. It'll hit a spot and then run up my spine. When I first started doing this as a little kid, It was a pretty small spot. It was like a little tingly thing. That was it. And as I did it a lot, and it didn't take very long, I just did it a lot, it grew in its size. And anymore, it's hard for me to do that, even practicing, like to show you all how to do that, because it's about like a vibrating lightning strike. So the system is built already to pick this vibration up and work with it. But the 7 chakra system, the world that you live in, has not been teaching you how to use that, so that system is atrophied. It's not a new system. You're not installing a new program. You're activating something that your body already knows. In the same way that when someone says something to you that you know is truthful, it resonates. And when they say something to you that you know is false, it doesn't, or it resonates as false. Same kind of principle. So now that you've done one that is your actual name, who you are known as in this life, right? So we didn't say at this time, we said in this life. Or you could have said at this time, I am known as Julie, and gotten you wouldn't have used Julie, but the name that would have gotten you a yes unequivocally. And I want you to feel what no sounds like, or the false response. So pick someone else's name that is not your name. It's not your given name. It's not your baptized name. It's not your nickname. Pick something from an opposite gender if that's accessible to you. Pick something you definitely know is not you. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. And say, in this life, I'm known as Sam, in my case. And how does that feel? In this life, I'm known as false name. So for me, that feeling is smaller, right? Instead of being this vibration that then expands on the system and runs on my hara line, that feeling feels a little bit cooler and it compresses. It has a density to it. Yours might feel smaller. You might get it someplace else in your body. You might get vibration in your hands. But you're looking for your body's response and learning the difference between a resonant yes and a resonant no, right? So one yes question and one no question is not necessarily enough to get your system, really familiar with that. And that's all we're using this for. We're not trying to find the answers to the universe, or like what you should do about your job tomorrow, or, how to handle your child, right? Not yet. We'll cover those things in class next week, but right now it's really about figuring out what's resonant for you. So what moves on your system? And because many of you are an 8 chakra system, you might really notice it right on the back side of this heart and high heart area. And it might run both directions on your system for that. So try to think of other things that are resonantly yes. So unequivocally, the answer would be yes, across all time, across all space, across all dimensions. So you might say, in this life, the last thing that I drank was coffee, right? Or whatever it was that you drank. Now, if you've forgotten something, you're going to be in trouble. So make sure you know for sure. Did you take a sip of water? Did you take a sip of somebody's beer, right? Did you drink a glass of wine, but then go brush your teeth and maybe you swallowed some water? So make sure that there's no question about what it is that you're asking for that resonant yes. And then state something that you know is false. Do the opposite. In this life, the last thing that I drank was wine, right? And so your system will feel that vibration. So the key to learning how this feels in your system is asking the question that is unequivocally yes or no, so you can learn discernment. Once you get a little bit of a handle on that, and sometimes maybe you don't have a handle on it yet, right? But you're just starting. And there's something that comes up tomorrow for you, and you want to do it or you don't want to do it, but you want to see if it's resonant. If you want to refresh your system, right? It doesn't have to be a big production, right? You don't have to go sit down in the middle of the floor and, breathe deeply and, chant before you ask these questions. Like, it's super simple. You can go hide in the bathroom and do it if that's what you got to do. And and ask, in this life, my name is Julie. Yes. Okay. In this life, my name is Sam. No. And then ask your question. So it's a quick retraining of your system. Yes and no. Now ask my question, right? Is it resonant for me to take that job in San Francisco? So here's the other thing about resonance. Don't make resonance the new should. Just because something is resonant with you doesn't mean that it is now the thing you should do, right? One of the beautiful things about the human experience is the capacity for free will choice. It's understanding cause and effect. That's what linear time is for. So you understand cause and effect and how all things are connected, right? So we don't always want to do what's resonant. Let's go back to the chocolate, right? I might think the chocolate's healthy or I might not, but I want it, right? But I also maybe want to see if it's resonant for me, right? So I might say, okay, is this chocolate resonant for me at this time, right? And it might say no. Nope, not resonant for me at this time. Don't forget that piece, at this time. And you can go, okay, well, I don't know if it's healthy for me. I want it, and it's not resonant. So what are you going to do? So the human experience is an experience of action, right? It has thought, it has belief, it has feeling, has resonance now, vibratory resonance on a kind of front page kind of way. It's always been there, but now it's more front page. So your choice of action, what you choose to do, can now be based off of accurately determining these things. It's not really intended that you start living your life, not for all of you for sure, by making what is resonant for your soul's greatest good the new rule. Your soul has an agenda. It's here to expand through experience. That's pretty much it. If you want to know what your life purpose is, it's to expand through experience. What kind of experiences you signed up for, or what kind of frameworks those are in, those are all varied depending upon who you are. But you're going to expand through experiences that you chose as a soul ahead of time, and then whatever's opportunistic that comes along in every minute of every day. So let's say your soul signed up for some relationship abandonment. Don't get confused with the idea that what's resonant is what's fun, or what's resonant is what's joyful, right? That's not the case. There have been a tremendous volume of things in my life that I have done because they were resonant. And I knew at the time, or I learned pretty quickly, this is not fun. This is not what I want to be doing. This is not the relationship I want to be in, or this is not the place I want to be, or the thing I want to do. But I chose an action based off of knowing that it was resonant, right? So those were my choices. There have been choices that I've made knowing that one thing is resonant, but it isn't what I wanted to do. So there's a couple of ways to look at that. Remember that when you ask what's resonant, it's going to be what's resonant with it, what is in your soul's greatest good. So let's say, like we said, our example is you signed up for some relationship abandonment. Maybe you don't know that, right? Most people don't. You just keep wondering why it always seems like everybody's always leaving you, because you have something to gain through the expansion of dealing with relationship abandonment. And hopefully you're getting that as efficiently as possible. But man, you're tired of it, right? I don't want to do it anymore. I fucking hate that, or whatever it is that's going on. So you're like, I'm going to find out what's resonant, right? I want this relationship, but I don't want to be abandoned anymore. Want, and don't want. But I want to find out what's resonant. So you might say, is this relationship resonant for me at this time? Very key, especially with relationships, because they'll be resonant for a while and then they're not. They've served their purpose. So our question is this relationship resonant for me at this time? So I might get a yes. And if I have thrown a little fit and said, I don't want to be abandoned anymore, and I'm tired of this crap, and I deserve love, all of which is true, right? And I'm checking to see if this relationship is resonant with me, and the other side says yes, it's easy to think that that relationship is not going to abandon you. Don't get these things confused, right? Resonance is about getting yourself, or getting some information at the very least, that is in alignment with your soul's intended goal. So if your soul signed up for relationship abandonment, it's going to get it one way or the other, regardless of what you do. Even if no one really abandons you, you'll have some perception of it, because the soul always wins. Your conscious mind has its own agenda, but it's not going to win in the big picture against what the soul is after. So if you get confused with the idea that like what's resonant is going to be joyful, or what's resonant is going to be fun or successful or enjoyable, that might be true, and it might not, right? So again, don't get them confused between what I like or what I want and what's resonant in my system. So you might say, well, I want this relationship and it came up as resonant, so I'm going to get involved in it. And then you go along for a little while and the person cheats on you or leaves you or dies or something that would give you the sense of abandonment. You might think that your divination tool is wrong. It's probably not. It's that your soul was after something. So if you check in and find out that something is resonant for you, and then it's difficult or challenging, that's a big Hollywood-sized banner that you have something on your soul's agenda right here. Everyone's always asking, what am I supposed to be learning? Right here it is. But you don't know that if you're not checking in with what's resonant. Let's say I really wanted this relationship, in our example's sake, and I checked in, and the other side gave me a feeling like my higher self, whatever you call any of that, said it wasn't resonant at this time. And I was like, I don't care. I like this person, and I'm having fun, and I'm going to do it anyway, because I'm sure that I can make it resonant, right? It'll be all right. And we engage in that process. When you do things that are not in resonance with you, they are typically more challenging. You might be able to stay in that relationship the entire rest of your life. It's not resonant, but you might be able to do it, but it might lack the fullness that you're after, right? Or it might make things more challenging in your world. And so sometimes it's helpful to remember that lots of things, conflicting things, can be resonant. So we have a tendency, because we've been trained and programmed in the should world. And if you ask the other side, should I do this? Or what should I do? Then you're not going to be able to get an answer from the other side, because that concept doesn't actually translate in the universe. It's a human plane concept. It implies that there's one and only one thing that is right, and everything else is some version of wrong. They might be less wrong, but they're still wrong, right? There's one thing you should do. That's how that concept works. So when you use words like should, shouldn't, supposed to, right thing, have to, right? Good, this is good, everything else is some version of bad. Then if you apply those kind of singular concepts to resonance, you can get confused and misled, right? So let's take something, let's say I have been dating multiple people, right? Let's just pick maybe you have got multiple jobs being offered to you, or several locations that you're looking to live. So let's stick with the relationship thing, because that's where our examples have been. So let's say I've been dating Tom and I've been dating Mary, and I like them both, right? And maybe both of them had said, hey, I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Let's get married. And I'm like, oh gosh, like I really love you both, but like I don't know which one to pick. And polyamory, I've already checked. Polyamory is not resonant for me. So I think I got to pick between these two people. So if you say, I think we gave our guy's name Tom. I can't remember what we called him, but his name's Tom now. So if I check in and say, is being in a long-term monogamous relationship with Tom resonant for me? If I get a yes, that is not necessarily the only yes. And that's what happens when we're dealing with these questions of resonance, is that if we get a yes, this is a resonant thing, we might think the other is an obvious no. And that's not true, right? There's many ways to get from point A to point B. So I got a yes, Tom's resonant. Okay, well, I better check on Mary, right? So is it resonant? Exact same question. Is it resonant for me to be in a relationship, a long-term monogamous relationship with Mary? Yes. And then because those are the only two examples that are currently asking you to spend the rest of your life together, you might think that's your options, but there are others, right? Is it resonant for me to spend the rest of my life single or just dating people? Oh, yes, I got a yes for that. Is it resonant? Is there someone else out there in the world that would be resonant for me to be in a long-term monogamous relationship with? Yes. So how can all of those things be resonant? What that means is that your soul, your particular soul path, is not requiring that you have a long-term monogamous relationship with someone, period, because it's in your greatest good and it doesn't harm your greatest good. Like you could be single and that's resonant. You can be in a relationship, it's resonant. So happens that the two people that are asking you right now both happen to be resonant. So then you get to look at like, well, which one do I want more? Right? And you can start using that resonant tool to define things down, which is really more what we're going to be doing in next Wednesday's class on Zoom. But for feeling these yeses and nos, don't forget that a yes for one thing, if you have multiple options, doesn't mean that you're not going to get a yes for another, right? So is it resonant for me to eat this chocolate at this time? Yes, but maybe I don't want it, so I'm not going to choose that, right? And it's important, it's more important that you choose from clarity than what you choose right now. I'm going to say that again to you. It is more important at this point in time that you choose from a place of clarity than what you choose. Choice is the key to breaking the concepts of should. Not the false concept of free will choice, like, yeah, technically I can choose something, but I really can't. But authentic choice. I know what I think. I know what I believe. I know what I want or feel or fear. And I know what's resonant, right? Or all the things that are resonant or all the things that I feel. But that I'm making my free will choice from a place of having all of that clarity. And if you are not checking in with what's resonant for you, then you are likely to be doing one of two things these days. You are either following the old system of rule and should, either because you don't think you actually have free will choice, or you're afraid of being judged. Right? This is the right thing. This is what my church said. This is what my family said. This is how I've always done it. This is what the culture accepts. So this should concept. Or you've, like, I think I'm going to struggle to explain that to you. If you're not checking in with resonance, you don't have a full picture. That's what I'm trying to get at. Then you're functioning from should, or from this pendulum swing. So think about energy. You know, there's a lot of ways you can try to use a 3D model to define energy. It doesn't work very well. You can draw it as like a sine wave. If you take that sine wave, which again isn't perfect, and kind of put it in a pendulum, right? So let's use this as an example. And this is a great way to understand what's going on in your system on a lot of fronts. So think of energy as moving on this pendulum. This is the far end. This is the other end. This is the bandwidth that I run in, right? Now, the downside to using this as an example or using a sine wave is that by its nature, it implies that for every high, there's an equal low, right? Not true. You can spend most of your time out here, right? And occasionally, something terrible happened, and you know, but this is your bandwidth, right? But what happens to the system when you feel trapped, when it's trapped in should, when it doesn't get to exercise free will choice, right? It's going to feel like it's stuck out here somewhere because you're not really getting to exercise free will choice. You're wanting something else. Something else might be resonant with you, but you got to do what you should. So you've been doing this, right? So you're stuck here. If you will get some clarity around how bad that is for you, loosely using the term bad, by recognizing what you say as a response in your life. So if you find yourself saying things like, oh my God, I just want to run away to an island and live in a hut, in the Caribbean. Or, God, I just want to win the lottery, right? The knee-jerk response in the system, the knee-jerk fix response, the dream response, is going to be the equal opposite of wherever your system perceives it's stuck. I'm super trapped, super trapped, super trapped, super trapped. So it's going to say the fix is run away, escape, if you're trapped in responsibilities, this is going to have none, right? Tired of paying a house, paying bills, being responsible for people financially, you're going to want to run away alone to a deserted island, right? And that's the knee-jerk response. If you got that, you'd probably love it for a short period of time, but you'd also probably find out that it wasn't resonant long-term. There's a few exceptions to that, but for most people, your knee-jerk responses are going to tell you how far stuck you are out here. This stuck is the result of not choosing things based off of what I want, what I know, what's resonant. It's a feeling of trapped because you're not including yourself in the equation or your higher self in the equation, almost always. So I encourage you to start with small things, right? It's not a requirement. There are no rules. You can do whatever it is that you want to do. But it might not be the best place to start by saying, is my marriage resonant for me at this time? Right? Maybe that's where you want to start. But it might be helpful for you to get a little bit of practice in knowing clearly how your body responds to yeses and nos. And don't forget, if you're asking that question, is it resonant for me to exit this relationship at this time? If you get a yes, is it resonant for me to stay in this relationship at this time? Right? Could be both. It could be that you're going to get whatever you need. So now it's a matter of like, how do you want it to look? Right? What else can you do around that experience? Sometimes I will pick food off of the menu based off of what is resonant. And I am not sitting in the restaurant reading my menu like this, right? I'm holding my menu and I'm just checking in, like I'm going steak, salad, cheesecake. Cheesecake is almost always a non-resonant, but I want it, so I order it, right? And some things might not have that big of an impact in your system. It's not resonant for you, but you choose it. Other things might, right? So if you had some kind of a terrible response in your body to the things that were in cheesecake, you'd learn pretty quick why that wasn't resonant for you. Sometimes it's not a big deal that it's not resonant, and sometimes it is. It's difficult to know which it's going to be. Again, some of those tools that we're teaching in next week's class can help you pin those details down. But to start with, you just need to understand like how to feel the difference between I want something and what's resonant. And it is so important that you try to stop using the term resonant to mean I want. When you do that, you're culturally devaluing the actual importance of resonance, right? You're using a word inappropriately continually, implying one thing, and it muddies the language, right? So if everyone starts saying, oh, that's resonant with me, or that's not resonant with me, to mean what I want, why would you not just say, this is what I want? And save the word resonant for what it actually means. And in this culture, it's often because it's not been acceptable to say, I don't want that, right? Well, why not? Or this is what you should do, right? We get away with it more by saying, oh, that's not resonant, because we're kind of implying that my body's not responding to that. And most of the time, that's not true. Most people aren't even checking. So try not to use that term if you're not actually checking in, right? You don't have to, like I said, you don't have to sit in the restaurant or, stop in the middle of the parking lot when your partner asks you if you want to go to Nepal for the summer. You don't have to go, oh, let me check and see, right? One of the beautiful things about energy is it requires no obviousness, right? There doesn't have to be any showmanship to anything. Your body is built to pick up the information that it needs to pick up, give you the responses that you need to get without doing anything, without holding any specific pose. There are certainly poses that facilitate certain things better than not, but if it might not actually be resonant for you to be standing in the middle of the parking lot, looking like, a Hindu statue, trying to figure out what's resonant for you or what's not. If it is, by all means, do that. Maybe you might need to hold that pose to find out. So don't think that it has to be showy. It's something you can do very easily in the middle of a conversation, especially once you get the hang of it, and not make a big production out of it. You don't have to say, if you're capable of coming to those pieces of information and decisions quicker, you might be able to give the answer right then when somebody asks you something and say that's resonant or that's not resonant. Or you might need to, hey, let me think about that. And I'm going to think about that, but I'm also going to feel into that, like what do I want? And then I'm going to check what's resonant, right? Maybe several places in the country that are offering you jobs are resonant, and maybe not. Maybe only one of them, right? So remember that resonance is what's going to serve your soul's greatest goal, right? Whatever it's after. From my perspective, the easiest life is the one that is functioning in alignment with what my soul is after. Otherwise, I am paddling upstream. But what's really nice about figuring out what's resonant is that maybe I've got two options that are resonant. They're both going to get what my soul is after. One of them is going to look like a complete shit show, right? And the other one, maybe not so bad. But if I don't keep asking questions about what's resonant, I would never know that, right? So again, don't assume that just because one thing is resonant, something else is not. Always ask those questions. So let me scroll here through the comments and see what kind of questions, if you guys have been throwing things out there that I might be able to answer for you. Wow, there's a lot of you in here. That's awesome. Clint says, exactly why I tattooed let it go over my third chakra to remind me to stop fighting and let go of those rules and just do me. Yes. And remember what we were talking about in the pendulum, right? So sometimes we'll do this thing that we really, really want, and it's not necessarily resonant. It's what the system wants. And I'm not saying that that's what's happening with you, Clint, but remember, like letting things go, particularly like in this case, tattooed over your solar plexus, like it's important. That's a great mindset for what actually serves me, right? What serves me in the way that I feel and what serves me in resonance, right? And then you also might be checking in with like what serves me with what my brain thinks it should be, minus the should word. So, okay, let's see here. What else? Any questions here? Cheryl says, resonance is how I've always known when I was supposed to live in a house or an apartment. Yes. Yeah, I have used resonance for all kinds of things, particularly like where I'm going to live, because it has such a big impact on so many other aspects of my energy. Now, other people may not be that way, but for people who are really, really affected by the energy of their space or ambient noise, like I'm really affected by ambient noise, those things are really good to use for resonance. Paul Reedy says resonance requires constant tuning, checking in with the physical body in this context. Yes. And that's why we say at this time, right? Again, with a reminder that nothing's going to be resonant forever or never or always, right? So maybe this relationship wasn't resonant for you last week. Maybe it is this week. Maybe not again next week. So like keep checking in. That's the nature of a resonance-based system, right? Free will to navigate. the culture that's built on a 7 chakra system doesn't give you those kind of options, really. Like, you can make them in a relationship, out of a relationship, get married, get divorced, but it costs an awful lot. So it's not necessarily the most efficient system for people who are trying to work off of what's resonant, whether it's a relationship or whether it's a job or a career type path or some education that they want to get. So always checking in, always checking in. See, I get to use that word there because that's applicable. Let's see. Anne Francis, I'm not feeling anything. Maybe change my position. Yes. So for those of you that tried that and didn't feel anything, a couple things to check. One, are you hydrated? Really? Not just are you drinking water, but are you hydrated? If you don't have enough cell salts in your body, and cell salts are the 12 essential cell salts that you can pick up at any health food store and take on a daily basis. Your cells have 24 salts, 12 of them are crucial. And they are, like, you can't stay hydrated without them. You can drink water all day long, but your cells are not going to pick up that water and work with it. And hydration is key to moving energy. So on a dehydrated system, energy will not move. If you're not staying hydrated, if you're too mineral deficient, you're going to struggle with this. If you are out of alignment in your spine, it will be more challenging to get this vibratory resonance, like, in a noticeable way. So the more, like, if you've got a vertebrae out, you might notice a reduction in whether you pick anything up on a physical body sense. It'll be there, but the energy's always there. But that translation from energy to physical, like, notice, might be more challenging. So again, hydration, water, cell salts, body position. So it might be that you're better standing up. For a long time, I was better with it standing up. Or maybe I just thought I was, and so therefore I was. And so I would stand, and just make sure my knees were bent. And then alignment of the body is always helpful with those things. So, and if that doesn't work out for you, Anne, keep playing with that a little bit. And if you're playing with that for about a week or so and you're not getting anything, shoot me a message, and I'll see if I can throw something else your way that might help you with that. Oh, and Clint gave you some help. Yeah, too. Big breath. Clint was saying too, and like, take a big breath. That's helpful too. We hold a lot of tension right here, right? And most of us are not actually breathing very well. So if you're struggling, or maybe you got just a small response and not a very big response, not that a small response is bad, right? Small response is a response. It doesn't have to be like somebody, threw a firecracker in the middle of you. You don't need that. You need a clear yes and a clear no. That's it. But breathe and take a deep breath, right? Maybe your shoulders were already relaxed, but your body, especially your torso, maybe wasn't that relaxed. So just taking that big breath and exhaling, or maybe take two, can help you get that energy moving better. Let's see. Jackie's saying she can't tell the difference. Practice. So that's pretty common, really, to not be able to tell a whole lot of difference in the beginning when you're starting to play with this. Sometimes you might need to change your questions. So maybe the questions or the statements of, in this life, I'm known as Julie, and in this life, I've known as Sam. Maybe those aren't a big enough resonant difference in your system. Some people don't really identify with name, and that's why I use the term I am known as. But if people call you by various names, that might be challenging too. So try to pick something else that might be clearer, a more potent yes or no. But practice is the key, because when it starts, that's why we're doing it, because there's not a lot of discernment. We'll get a feeling in our body, and we don't know it well enough to know if it's a yes or a no. So some people it'll be really clear right off the bat, and other people need to practice it a little bit. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is try practicing that with maybe different types of unequivocal yeses and nos. So just make sure that's the big piece there. Yep, resonance takes practice, Paul says. Yes, it does. And And Amy was having trouble feeling anything. Again, we kind of talked about some of that. Hydration, make sure you're taking a deep breath. Clint, good point. So Clint says, careful with your language. You can't tell the difference yet. It takes a bit of practice. Yes, language. I am all about language. Marcy got it on the backside. Yeah, that's where most people get it, really, is they'll feel it on their backside. Anne was saying she has a little bit of a queasy stomach. That can happen too, particularly if you've not been running resonant energy or checking in with your higher self, and you're trying to pull that energy into your cyclical system in your physical body. And if you have issues around your third chakra at all, you might feel queasy there too, as you pull that energy through there, because you're pulling universal energy, divine energy, whatever you call that, higher self energy into your system. So think of it like a stronger garden hose. So if there's a leak in the hose, it's going to spray out more. Or if there's a problem, it's going to show up more. So that might be a little bit of that too. Or it could just be energy moving. Not making it the new should. Yes. Works better for me with my hands and making one yes or no. Yeah, Summerlee, I know that that's what I taught you a long time ago, was to do it that way. But it was really less about the tool and more about understanding what's resonant. And the way that you're using that tool really plays heavily into next week's class. So I wanted to keep them separate, or it would get too confusing probably for people. So, but if you are interested in learning what Summerlee's talking about, one hand yes, one hand no, I would really encourage you to come to next week's Zoom class, or if you can't make it on Wednesday, to make yourself a note to come back and watch the YouTube video when it goes up, because that's a killer tool. So first check on resonance, and then free will to decide if I want to. Yes, there's what I want, there's what I think, there's what's resonant, and then you get to choose. What you choose is not as important as that you choose. So yes. Okay, judgment kills resonance. Yeah, but resonance kills judgment too. So if you really understand how to operate in resonance, and you are operating in resonance, what you'll notice is that you become more accepting of other people by and large. It's not going to fix everything. You're more accepting of the self. And it is more challenging to judge other people, because you are finally looking at yourself and saying, well, this is what I know, but this is what I want, and then this is what's resonant. And that often they will not all align. And when you understand that and realize that we have free will choice, and I'm going to enact a choice, and it may be based off of one of those rather than all of them being combined together, then you have a greater understanding of other people and what's driving them. Whether they're driving the boat, or they're letting someone else's rules drive the boat, or that sort of thing. So judgment kills resonance, but resonance can do a number on judgment too. Clint was saying that's an excellent distinction. I'm not sure where I was when you typed that, actually. This is quite clarity. So Michelle says, this is quite something. The word clarity has been hanging around me for a while now. Ta-da. Now this, I'll practice with this tool. Definitely. Thank you. You are so welcome. With everything going on in the world, and we have this amazing opportunity right now, like really, I know a lot of you are stressed out. You've got, big challenges going on in your lives, and you might be like, well, what am I going to do with myself? I'm stuck at home. I can't go out. It feels like you've lost everything. And in some ways you have. But that's an opportunity for you to look at what is in my bubble here, right? There's nothing else for you to do right now. Start looking at, like, is my lifestyle resonant? Is this food I'm eating resonant? Or is it just my damn habit, right? And I'll tell you, food is a big habit. Go to the grocery store and go through the aisles, and you just put the same stuff in the cart every time. Where's the Kraft mac and cheese? And if you really want to break some of those habits, like especially with the grocery store, start checking in with what's resonant. The grocery store is a great place to do it. Nobody's really paying any attention to you except to get around your cart. And these days, they're just trying to stay away from you. But go to either, if you don't have choices for going to a different grocery store, then just run your grocery store backwards. But really, if you can go to an entirely new grocery store, It would be better. What you want is you want to break the habit of, like, I always start in the produce section and I go through the aisles like this, right? Because that's habitual. It's on autopilot in the system. But if you go through a new grocery store, or you go through and plan to take twice as much time in the grocery store than you normally would, you can look at these things and say, okay, I always buy this. This is what I do. This is my action. I buy this Kraft macaroni and cheese. But is it actually resonant? No. Do I want it? Actually, kind of no. I kind of want this cheese and shells thing over here that's got like Parmesan cheese and chives or something in it, right? Is that resonant? No, but I still can buy it, right? So it's there's a tendency in us to really not use these tools until something big happens. But the reality is that your life is made of billions of little things. What you ate for breakfast, what you ate for lunch, what you ate for dinner, what kind of sheets you sleep in, what your laundry detergent smells like, who you talk to, right? Whether you walked outside first thing in the morning or looked at your phone, like, it's endless little things that build your life. So if you want to start shifting things in your world and you're feeling trapped, there's no better way to do that than starting to check in with what's resonant and then making free will choice. And there's no better time to do it than now. Right? The world's changing with or without your approval, right? This is the agenda. This is what's happening. So, from my perspective, I'm always trying to be in alignment. I'm trying not to paddle upstream. That's what I'm trying not to do, right? Sometimes I just want to put my paddle in the canoe and say, screw it, let it take me wherever it's going. And other times I will futile, paddle upstream just to make myself feel like I've got, like, I'm going to do this. It doesn't last very long. So I'm like, okay, that's not really working, and it's not resonant, and it's probably not what I want. It's just like, I'm going to do what I want kind of energy. So, we're allowed to have all those things. Remember, that you choose is more important right now than what you choose. I'm not telling you that what you choose isn't valuable. I'm telling you that you choose is more important than what you choose for right now. So Marcy likes my new room arrangement. I do too. I like this room. This is my favorite room. This is the room I see clients in when I have clients here at the house. Let's see. Okay, so Ellen was saying that she feels a touch of anxiety arising over gaining clarity in this way. That's a really good point. I'm so glad. I'm sorry that you're having anxiety, and I am also so glad that someone brought that up, because when you have been operating from a rule-based system, and that rule-based system says if you break the rules, you're bad, right? It will create anxiety to start thinking about breaking those rules and doing what's resonant for you, or operating in free will choice. Right? So it's not unusual to start or have some knee-jerk responses around anxiety. It's also not unusual to have knee-jerk responses that are kind of angry, especially when we start realizing how much free will choice we have and how much stuff we've been doing off of should. You can get super pissed off, especially if you start looking back over your history. Try to assess without self-judgment, right? You're doing the very best you can do at any given moment. You always have been. People don't go through their life going, I am really going to try to fuck this up. That's my whole goal. Just going to try to screw up my life. No, but no one's really doing that, right? Even if they say that, they're not really doing that. So, you did what you needed to do to survive. You did what you thought was the right thing, that your parents taught you, that your church taught you. Everybody wants to kind of inherently be good, whatever that is defined as in your particular culture. But that's the problem. Somebody else has been defining it. And to this day, you're going to start working, if you start making free will choices, you're going to run into hurdles. People are going to go, well, you shouldn't do that. Why'd you do that? It's not nice to say no. If helping Mary move on Saturday isn't resonant with you, and you decide to go with what's resonant, you're not going to help Mary move. Mary or other people might, well, that's not very nice. It has nothing to do with being nice. It has to do with me doing what's resonant for me, right? I am not put on this earth to help Mary move if it puts me out of balance, right? We are community creatures. We are connected. We are meant to be connected and assist one another, but we're not intended to be enslaved to each other's needs, right? Yes, it's nice to help Mary move. It could also be enabling. We don't know, right? But is it resonant for us to help someone if it throws us out of balance? Sometimes the answer is going to be yes to that. But on a consistent basis, unless your soul has signed up for that particular lesson, the answer is probably going to be no, right? So yeah, anxiety can definitely be something. Know that that's an anxiety that's coming from a fear of change, from a fear of freeing yourself, which sounds crazy. You know, everybody's always talking about like, oh, they want to be free. They want to have all this money so that they can be free and do these things and not have to work. You know, yes, we would all love to have idyllic lives, but the fear of actually being free will keep a lot of people from it. The fear of being free will keep you, the fear of being free, and it's the thing you say you want. So it puts conflict in you. You know, I would be free except people will judge me. I want to be free except I might be hungry. You know, so then it becomes a matter of like prioritizing your priorities. But so let's see. Anne was saying hydrated, that would be a no. Yeah, that would do it. If you're not hydrated, you're going to struggle with this. Trisha's saying she feels a tingling in the left hand for yes and chest heaviness for no. So that's cool, right? And know too that the way that you feel it might change. It might evolve. It might always be this left hand and center chest, or it might evolve into something else. The more you play with it, the more you use this, like your body retrains to this fast. It's not like I got to practice it every day for a half an hour for 2 weeks, really. Like if you are touching base with this, little things, do the little things. You know, is it resonant for me to eat this steak or this fish or this salad? You know, again, what you choose right now is not super important. That you're choosing, that you're checking in with what's resonant, that's helpful. Amy Welsh, hydration, Pepsi all day. So Pepsi can, you know, I mean, it's not the end of the world. But if you don't have cell salts in your body's not going to uptake the water out of it. The bigger problem with something like Pepsi is going to be the caramel coloring and chemicals. I can always tell a pop drinker when I look at them because it shows up in your kidneys because of that caramel coloring. So it's really, really not good for the system. Throat chakra, Abby's saying the throat chakra is very heavy and clogged for no. Yeah, that could be, but also, honey, that could be because you have a blockage in the throat chakra. So, you know, you might try before you practice, just, you know, toning some scales or making, you know, any kind of noise out of that to get some movement in that and then retry those things, because it could be that the energy's locking up right there. Throat chakra is a place where a lot of people have congestion, especially, you know, because they want to do what's resonant, but might be say this thing and the rules tell them they can't. So they get hung up there. Rocking in a circle and expansive feeling for yes. Yep. And again, that can change too. So tightening sensation. Abby is saying, I get this too, sometimes with a no, but also a tightening sensation. I get a compressing sensation too, like a closing feeling with my no. John saying, when I meditate or did the resonance question test, I get a strong run on my spine like I'm walking into a scary environment. That's what I get, except I just don't equate it to scary. I still struggle with clarity though. So mine has always been, or almost always been, a run, right? Like it hits my spine and it runs. And it's, you know, pretty intense. Anymore, you know, like I had to say some things before I started this class just to make sure that energy wasn't actually running on me when I taught it to you all, because I can't hardly tolerate it. And even the little bit that I got, you probably saw me get all, you know, with it. So it can get, you know, pretty intense to where you can ask, you know, questions and your whole body kind of moves around. Deborah saying this helps tremendously. Julie, thank you so much. You'll be practicing. That's great. Good. Let's see. Clint says, the distinction I said was important was when you said that it's more important that you choose than what you choose, to clarify from my previous comment. Oh, yes. Yes, very true. So what other questions? Do you guys have any questions around any of this? I think I've made it to the bottom of the list here. Cindy Jensen says, I felt the most sensation in the palm of my hands, and I'll continue to practice this checking in. Very, very good. Cell salts. So Susie's asking if I can explain cell salts. Yeah, and if you want more information on what your body needs to be better at moving energy in it, you might check out the YouTube video for the Empath Class 2. That's actually going to go up late tonight. But if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, so when you go to YouTube, you can subscribe, but then when you do that, this little bell icon pops up next to it. If you hit that bell as a subscriber, what it does is it notifies you when a new video comes up, and then you don't have to keep going and checking YouTube to see what's up there. But yesterday's Empath 2 class actually talked about cell salts and trace minerals and a bunch of other things. So cell salts are 12 of the essential cell salts out of 24 that the body needs for proper cell function. So Gatorade, for example, works because it's got a few cell salts in it. It's got a bunch of junk too. But think about hydration and electrolyte balance as being part of that, and your cells are performing osmosis all the time. So, they can't take in good things and flush out junk if they don't have any hydration in them. They just don't work, and they can't hydrate properly if they don't have the right cell salts. When you are cell salt deficient, and most people are cell salt deficient, your body tries to uptake sodium salt, like table salt, as a replacement, and it does a really poor job. And causes other problems too. So it's not like it's a good replacement, but taking daily cell salts can really have a huge impact on your hydration. If you feel like you're always tight, your body's always tight, you're always sore, pain is the body's #1 response to dehydration. Why am I sore? Why am I tired? Probably water, probably hydration. Your fascia makes this stuff called gel water in it. Think like aloe, but your body makes it, and it transfers the vast majority of your hydration through your body in that gel water, in that fascia. And it's a weird little catch-22, right? The body tightens, the fascia gets, stuck, and then it doesn't make gel water, and then the body gets more dehydrated and it gets tight. So you have to give the body the things it needs. And if you're drinking water all day long and you're just peeing it out and you're always thirsty, I can guarantee you're probably deficient in cell salts. Right? You actually need to drink less water when you have the proper cell salts in your body, because your body makes better use of it. But the other thing is, if you're drinking a boatload of water, especially if you're cell salt deficient, until you just keep drinking water all the time to try to stay hydrated, you're flushing all of these water-soluble nutrients out of your system all the time too. So cell salts are your friend. Sea kelp count. Does sea kelp count for what, Deborah? While you're typing that out, Cheryl is saying, I started taking them after the first Pick My Brain and the trace minerals, and I'm feeling a big difference. Yay! Yeah. If you are in need of cell salts or trace minerals and you start taking them, it's pretty, holy cow. So, again, I'm going to point you guys to that video, not because I really care if you get on the YouTube channel, but I really care that you have the information. And, when you're suffering, when you don't need to be, right? Now, if your soul signed up to suffer with that, well, then there's nothing that's going to fix that, right? But the vast majority of people are suffering needlessly because no one ever told them what their body actually needs, right? So, try to get it the nutrition it needs. JJ, hey, what's up? Which cell salts do I recommend? I really like Hyland's Bioplasma. Hyland's is HYLAND''S. And the product's called Bioplasma. Hyland's makes a whole bunch of homeopathic remedies. I like, and I would probably like others too, but I've had really good results with Hyland's. And it's not expensive. You can buy 2 sizes of bottles. The big bottle, which is 1,000 of them, is like $16. So it's super inexpensive. And they're these little teeny tiny, little tiny white tablets, and the bottle will tell you to take 4 of them under your tongue. So it's a sublingual, right? It's going to bypass your digestive system. You put 4 of those under your tongue, and they dissolve within 15 seconds, right? And the bottle will tell you to do it 3 times a day. It won't harm you to do it 3 times a day, every day, the rest of your life. But the other side's always working at things from a place of efficiency, and it's not always efficient to do that. So if you really think you're super cell salt deficient, yeah, you can do it 3 times a day. But then after a few weeks, you might drop to once or twice a day. I will tell you, think like Gatorade. So anytime you think, man, an electrolyte balancing water would be great right now because it just worked out, or like my build crew for Rootwire, we'd be out in the sun sweating our butts off, and it got to where everybody carried cell salts on them because you can take those cell salts after like really sweating a lot, and you've just lost all those salts. And about 2 minutes, you're ready to go, right? All that worn out that you get from sweating and being hot is a loss of cell salts and hydration. Take some cell salts and you're right back at it. So it's a great thing. JJ's asking, is it in the video? Yes, it's in the empath video. It might be in the empath video, in the second one. Clint says, I could always tell who was hydrated and who wasn't when I was a tattoo artist. The skin, the largest organ, behaves totally differently when dehydrated, and it's quite obvious. All those tattoos tended not to heal as well as the ones I do on people who were dehydrated or who were decently hydrated. Yeah, the skin is your biggest detoxifying organ in your body, and it detoxifies 2 ways. So it's going to detoxify things that are trying to get in to your system and protect you that way, and it's also going to be detoxifier from the inside out. And like anything in your body, if it's not properly hydrated, it's not going to work well. Yeah, and it won't heal a tattoo or something like that very well. Okay, so it looks like, I missed a question here from Trista. Does the challenge between the 7th and the 8th chakra system get in the way of discerning resonance, or is this resonance practice a way? Is this resonance practice a way through this challenge? I mean, I think it's possible for us to put anything in the way, really, if we want to, or if we've been programmed hardcore for that. But I also am a big believer in where there's a will, there's a way. If I mean, I'm going to speak directly to you, Trista, you're an 8 chakra system, right? So there's no reason for it to be in the way, except if you have some kind of hang up about it being inappropriate to be moving energy in your system. And sometimes people have that. They maybe were raised to think that that kind of behavior makes them evil or makes them a witch or is going to make them unloved by God. It could be coming out of this life. It could be coming out of some karmic component. Maybe they moved energy in some other life and got burned at a stake or drawn and quartered, and maybe they don't remember that, but it's triggering those things now. So your system will have a karmic response to that, but you can still work through it. If you're having trouble with those things, it's helpful to, remind yourself that I am safe in this moment, and it is safe for me to practice this, right? And that can be helpful around those kinds of things too. So awesome. Well, I thank all of you for tuning in. Hopefully you found something that was useful to you. Hopefully you will check in with your system and make choices based off of what I think, what I feel, what I want, and what's resonant. And that you'll get a good practical use out of this on a regular basis. Remember, practice on small things. Your life is made up of tons of small things. Don't underestimate the value of all of those little things, right? Do I go to Starbucks or not today? And you have free will choice. So again, don't use the word resonance to imply want or not want. Make choices. Don't make resonance your new should. And remember when you're asking questions for checking with resonance that you're saying at this time. So I wish you all a happy quarantine and the rest of 2020 in navigating through your free will choices. Go get them. We'll catch you guys the next time. Thanks.